Hello, everyone, and welcome back into Crypto's News. It's me, Omar Bam, aka Crypto, here to give you the latest deets about the crypto streets, tell you about what's going on, catch you guys up. And it's been about a couple of weeks. I did a video the day before the halvening came out, and it has continued to be quite the halvening, hasn't it? Yeah, a lot of people lamenting the prices dipping. I think they haven't been around for very long and through various cycles to see that this is normal, this kind of downward volatility. If we want that rocket fuel, we have to give some up. So we're going to explore that and a lot of news that has gone down over the last 2 weeks that you guys need to stay on top of. So thank you very much for joining me. I invite you to hit that like button if you do appreciate this kind of content, and subscribe if you're new. Share the videos. It would be a big help for the video, guys. So let's go ahead and get started here by looking at the prices. We have Bitcoin down 9.9%, about 10% over the last 7 days, currently at $57,946.34. It hasn't managed to stay up over $60,000, but most are saying and seeing is that $50,000 is a more crucial psychological and even order book trading level. So we're probably going to have to dip a little bit lower to see if we're going to be breaking that and heading down into the $40,000 region, real Goblin Town, down to Goblin Town. So far, we haven't really seen it. Seems like a rather normal correction. Not any terrible news. In fact, there's some actually maybe even you could say good news here in relation to rates coming in. We're going to talk about that happened today. But yeah, I'm not really freaking out just yet. If anything, this is a nice dip during the bull market. Ethereum, $2,966.80, just south of $3,000 at 5.6% down over the last 7 days. We'll see if the bleeding comes down. Surprisingly, it hasn't been stifled too much, despite some of the comments that we heard today. But before we get into that and talk about the Fed, let's make sure we commemorate this now becoming classic video that started popping up on the cryptocurrency social media sites. So your entire network is in this man's hands. Damn. I've seen Vitalik at different conferences in the past, but I've never seen him doing one of these crazy moves. It's pretty epic, not gonna lie. Anyway, he's not down about this, so why should you be? But anyway, let's look at what the Federal Reserve had to say. So for the most part, there was not much change in the language as to whether they're going to be raising, pausing, or lowering rates, except for hearing about how inflation still remains quite high, so they're not going to be lowering rates just yet. In fact, they need to stay elevated somewhat at this level, though they're going to be offloading some other securities, holdings, and limits over at the Federal Reserve. But interesting note here, the Bitcoin Magazine took from the comments today by Federal Reserve Chairman Powell. He said an unexpected weakening in the labor market could warrant a rate cut. So it looks like perhaps they're expecting the labor market to weaken before inflation comes down, and this might be a signal that they could lower rates. Some commentators are speculating it might not happen, however, until December. There have been many that are expecting interest rates to begin going down between, well, not now, not anymore now since nothing happened today, but really between next month and June. But more and more, I think some of these expectations of lowered rates are getting pushed back towards the latter half of this year. So not too many changes there right now, but it's also a sign that the Fed is downplaying some of their hawkishness. Some are actually expecting that they might be raising rates and continue to do that, but we've gotten a little more validation here that that is not in the cards right now and doesn't seem to be what the Fed wants to do. They're pretty happy at the levels that they're at, despite inflation not really coming down and being stronger, especially over recent months, than they had expected. Yeah, whatever, man. Inflation is going to be on an uptrend. It's just a natural way of how the monetary reserve system works, especially since during COVID, they completely changed the rules. See, many times people have a vague understanding. They still think that you deposit money in the bank and 10% of that is being left at the bank, and then they loan out 9 times what you put in. But they have some of your money at the bank. That is not the case. There is 0% capital reserve requirements now at banks, so they can basically continue to issue out loans and print money willy-nilly. That to me is the biggest problem right now that we have. And I think like the real inflation that's being created through a lot of this will not be readily apparent and will become more apparent over time. And I think this will ultimately eke its way over into cryptocurrencies and things that are seen as a hedge, especially some of the more trusted ones, like namely Bitcoin at this time. People who have been in crypto, according to this very popular post today on the cryptocurrency subreddit, for more than one cycle, probably saw this drop coming from a mile away. It was textbook crypto volatility. They also probably are not worried about this dip and maybe even relieved to see it. So far, everything continues to play out like clockwork. This is Bitcoin being classic Bitcoin. We always see these big drops even during a bull run. And after steep, volatile rallies, you get equally volatile corrections. It would have been really weird if after the 166% rally we just had, it would only do a 16% correction to somewhere above 60%. So then they show this chart here, and this is during the 2017 bull run. The halving happened here in the summer around 2016 when I started this show, and then it was up, but we had a huge crash. Look at that, 38% right there. Then it went up 138% over this period in green, the first green period. Then it dropped 38% again, then 106% up, then down 33%, 211% up, down 38%, then down 36% after the next climb, then down 29%. Overall, if you held down through this period and you didn't have the weak hands, you ended up out quite ahead despite these huge drops. But you kind of have to learn how to stomach those. You have to learn how to just, I guess, be meditative and let them pass and just let time pass so you can eke out those gains. Really, these paper hands, these crypto market tourists, are the people who lose the most during these periods. They kind of freak out and they forget about it and they miss the whole rally and they're like, what? I should have got more. And then they get in at the top and they lose their house. I mean, we already saw this like recently, right before the halving. I had already shared some posts about those who are taking out credit card debt, people who are taking out equity loans on their houses to try to buy more Bitcoin or to be all in Bitcoin. And it gets pretty scary when you see these dips and then those loan payments are still coming in and you have to then sell your crypto. And you end up paying fees. In some cases, you might have eked out a small gain, but then you have to pay those capital tax gains. You don't come out ahead here by not hodling. It ends up being very, very risky. So I think patience is going to very likely be rewarded here again, as it always has been. And continue with this post, a correction closer to 30%, taking us to the low 50Ks. Again, we're actually closer to the higher end of the 50Ks. We're closer to 60,000 right now. So anyway, if we go down to 50Ks, we'll be closer to that 30% correction, those that we usually see, to maybe as much as the high 40Ks, maybe even below 50K. Seems like the most typical scenario here and in line with what this market usually does. Even in a best case scenario, you're looking at least a 20 to 25% correction and testing something higher in the 50Ks. If you believe the market is too bullish to drop that much lower. In a market this volatile, not many large traders are going to just settle for 16%. They may not even settle for 20%, these greedy bears. They want to start accumulating at the volatility level they are betting on in this market. Worried about this dip? If anything, the OGs and old timers are a bit relieved about this dip. It really proves once again that everything is playing out like clockwork for the time being. We got the usual correction after rally, and even the cycles and post having dip play out like clockwork. This market is still predictable enough and not doing anything too weird, so we don't have to worry about this time it's different just yet. This is yet another opportunity for whales to steal candy from a child and take money from panicking hands as we drop into the 50Ks from people for which this is likely their first rodeo and may legit think that this is the final drop into a long bear market and this first pre-halving rally was the final FOMO mania run. Laugh out loud. Yes, I kid you not, there are actually people who believe that right now, that we just saw all of the multipliers. Just look at the graph of the 2017 bull run. This is just the first of these big rallies and corrections. If it does play out anything like that period, then it will be the case. And this is going to be very emotionally taxing, my friends. At least if this isn't your first or second or maybe even third rodeo, it definitely would be the case. I'm quite chill right now. I don't care if it goes up right now or down right now. I think by the end of the year, especially with the fact that we have more time to accrue before interest rates actually go down, I think that when those interest rates finally begin dropping, you're really going to see this take off in a big way because crypto, especially recently more and more has become more and more tied to the macroeconomic and political environment. So something positive for risk asset will be positive for cryptocurrencies too. And I say cryptocurrencies because I really do mean all of them. People will buy the poop coins, right? Like they will buy the most ridiculous coin that they can. They will literally try to find the most ridiculous coin coming out for the day that they can with the weirdest name and ticker symbol. And they don't look at any of the tokenomics at all. If the team is funny looking, it's even better in a kind of way. And they try to get out before the next greater fool. That is the kind of mentality that sadly does win out a lot in the bull market. And we did see like hints of that happening recently as well. So, yeah, I mean, this is quite crazy. Roger Ver. So someone who I had hosted on the show many, many times, been to his, I've just seen him at various events and things that he's hosted himself. And always got along quite well with him. But it's not the same, of course, with the cryptocurrency community. He was someone who rallied. He didn't create it, as people like to say, but he rallied around Bitcoin Cash in a big way as a way to keep Bitcoin more in line with the traditional goals of being an electronic peer-to-peer cash system. Tried to live by that. He expatriated the United States when he didn't agree with a lot of the tax laws, and he wanted to be somewhere else to protect his cryptocurrencies. He paid folks in crypto, we find out, through an unsealed charge that was just released, whereby Roger Ver of memory dealers fame, of, again, Bitcoin Cash fame, I guess you could say, and so much else, an early investor in cryptocurrency startups, maybe the first real big investor in cryptocurrency startups. It's said in some of these reports that at some point he had over 110,000 Bitcoin. Looks like he got a lot of these Bitcoin at maybe $32 or less per Bitcoin, started accruing them in 2011, accepting it from his company, Memory Dealers, and another company that he had as well, and kind of intermingling his own funds as well within there, buying Bitcoin with company funds, buying himself Bitcoin, opening accounts here and there, and he decided to expatriate eventually. And when you expatriate, according to the law, you are supposed to, and that basically means, if you don't know, just giving up your U.S. citizen. You're still an American. You were born in America. He was born in San Jose, was it, in California. He's still an American, but he's no longer a citizen. However, when you do that, the day before your expatriation, you are supposed to have sold all of your assets and then paid the appropriate capital gains tax for that. I believe this applies, from what I had read, if you have over $2 million in net worth. That's really when these specific kind of rules apply. But he kind of fudged the numbers through a lot of this, didn't talk about how much Bitcoin he really had, and he did not pay the appropriate amount of taxes. And so he is currently arrested in Spain, and the U.S. is trying to extradite him over to the U.S. for trial proceedings. So let me read this press release, which gives a bit more detail on this. Man known as Bitcoin Jesus, that was his nickname, evaded nearly $50 million in taxes. An indictment was unsealed yesterday, charging Roger Ver, an early investor in Bitcoins, with mail fraud, tax evasion, and filing false tax returns. Ver was arrested this weekend in Spain based on the U.S. criminal charges. The United States will seek Ver's extradition to stand trial in the United States. According to the indictment, Ver, formerly of Santa Clara, I said San Jose, Santa Clara, California, owned MemoryDealers.com Inc. and AgileStar.com Inc., two companies that sold computer and networking equipment. Starting in 2011, Ver allegedly began acquiring Bitcoins for himself and his companies. He also allegedly avidly promoted Bitcoins, even obtaining the moniker Bitcoin Jesus. Allegedly, he definitely promoted Bitcoin. That's not a crime, dude. On February 4, 2014, Ver allegedly obtained citizenship in St. Kitts and Nevis, and shortly thereafter renounced his U.S. citizenship in a process known as expatriation. As a result of his expatriation, Ver allegedly was required under U.S. law to file tax returns that reported capital gains from the constructive sale of his worldwide assets, including the Bitcoins, and to report the fair market value of his assets. He was also allegedly required to pay a tax, referred to as an exit tax, on those capital gains. By February 4th, 2014, Veer and his companies allegedly owned approximately 131,000 Bitcoins that traded on several large exchanges for around $171 each. Memory dealers and Agilestar allegedly held approximately 73,000 of those coins. He hired a law firm to help him out with all of this. There was a point there that I believe he had a partner. I don't know if it was in St. Kitts or in Tokyo. He lived in Tokyo for a while. He did a lot of martial arts. And he had gifted her about 25,000 Bitcoin, except he didn't really gift it to her. He just used that to file the deduction in his tax. There's a lot of paper trail with this, with what he said and really his communications with the IRS and what he had signed and his reporting and so much else that they're coming after him right now. It looks like the total loss to the IRS is $48 million. So again, really something that's controversial, I guess you could say, right now in the cryptocurrency space because of what a controversial figure he has been over the years, especially since the great block size war debates of 2015 through 2017, when he was a big proponent of bigger or variable and dynamic blocks rather than keeping block sizes as constricted as they are, and really trying to get Bitcoin to be more of a second layer kind of solution, right? Where people use the Lightning Network. They don't touch the main chain as much. He didn't agree with that as well. He wanted to keep it available for really, I guess, larger block size, keep fees down, enable people to use that to buy a cup of coffee. It's really hard to buy a cup of coffee with regular Bitcoin layer one market fees right now versus using something like the Lightning Network. He actually wrote a book about it. It came out, like a month ago, and it was called Hijacking Bitcoin. I haven't had a chance to read it just yet, but I would love to know your thoughts if you guys have dived into hijacking Bitcoin. Here's some comments that I found on cryptocurrency subreddit. Buffalo Brain said, "It's one thing to not report the $50 of shitcoins you bought to the IRS. It's another thing to sell $240 million worth of BTC and think the IRS won't come after you. Roger previously spent some time in jail for selling fireworks on eBay. I think he developed a deep hatred for the US government during that time. I don't think he could bring himself to pay those taxes out of spite. I used to argue with him on Reddit after the BTC BCH fork, after those block size debates. I never supported BCH, but wouldn't wish prison on anyone, so I wish him the best." Then Fap the Police, weird name, said this: "Nowadays, sure. Back then, there were absolutely no reporting standards. Nobody from that era, except for Roger, even bothered to report anything, which is kind of normal because Roger was the only big Bitcoiner to have to pay the exit tax. The others simply held, and the few who sold made peanuts anyway. And the government is going after Roger because he allegedly hasn't reported in 2013 by 2024 standards, despite him hiring people to professionally assess the situation at that current time. Back then, there were no professional market makers. We had one exchange, Mt. Gox, which was a repurposed playing card trading website." Get it? Like Magic the Gathering online exchange, Mt. Gox. Anyway, liquidity was lower than that of many meme coins nowadays. Had Roger tried to sell his Bitcoin, as was mentioned in court listener documents, had Roger tried to sell his Bitcoin, he would have crashed the price 90%. So it's insane to ask him to calculate the value of his illiquid holdings at number of coins times the price, just because this would be valid today. He also did pay exit tax on his Bitcoin. He has stated this publicly for many years. The government is alleging that he allegedly lowered the valuation of his Bitcoin, assuming that back then we had the same levels of liquidity, which is bonkers. Then it's calculating the amount owed in Bitcoin at today's prices, which is nasty on a level that is difficult to comprehend, and also has nothing to do with the word of law. The only thing that may have merit is claiming that some of his Bitcoin belongs to the company and not the person. Not sure how you're supposed to prove anything in that regard, since once again there were no reporting standards back then. Technically, there could have been an accounting error, i.e. him sending a wire from his company to Mt. Gox and not reporting a dividend in US dollars for the same amount, but that's me giving the IRS a steel man pass. And if that's the case, he probably owes no more than $1 million and should have received a letter rather than getting arrested. Yeah, super divisive. This situation right now, just because so many people hate him already. So it's hard to find, I guess, balanced viewpoints. I'm here on the BTC subreddit, which has for a while been more, oh no, this is the cryptocurrency subreddit. Okay, never mind. All right. But it's nice to see someone at least giving a nod in his direction. Cryptocurrency subreddit is known more for shitcoins. The BTC subreddit is known more for being more Bitcoin Cash positive, and the Bitcoin subreddit, of course, being the Bitcoin maximalist haven of choice. Anyway, if you'd like to read more about it yourself, I highly suggest you check out courtlistener.com. You can see the information here to find it, the dockets on that, and you can actually read the indictment that has been unsealed there. It's quite lengthy, so I'm not going to read into it too much here, but they were able to cluster addresses to try to figure out how much Bitcoin he had, for example. It's quite a document here. It's signed by several people, by the United States Attorney Martin Estrada, by Assistant United States Attorney Chief Criminal Division Mac E. Jenkins, by the Assistant United States Attorney Chief, by the Assistant Chief of Tax Division, by the Trial Attorney for the Tax they're coming after him hardcore. So we will have to see what happens here and if he is going to be extradited. Between Spain and the U.S., I can't see it would be very difficult to get him extradited over here for trial. But he's the latest, I guess you could say, scapegoat. I don't know. It's not even the right word. The latest one who will be an example for people in the crypto space by the powers that be, I guess you could say. Juan Galtz, who has actually debated Roger Ver, and I've mentioned that many times, that I was there in Acapulco with him debating Roger Ver, and it was just a great intellectual debate that covered so much history, and I think I had even recorded it. You might find it on my channel on Library. Actually, they're called Odyssey now. I think I have a link in the description below. I'll check after this video, but if not, look up Crypto's News on Odyssey, spelled with 2 E's rather than a Y at the end. And you'll be able to find an interview between Roger Ver and Juan Galtz that I think is quite illuminating. But anyway, even him, who's more of a, I guess you could say, Bitcoin maximalist, but he's definitely one who's more of a freedom maximalist. Some people just say that, but having known Juan for some time, definitely more of a freedom maximalist rather than just a Bitcoin maximalist. But he supported Roger Ver here, at least with people who are saying, yeah, good, pay your taxes, man. The comments on this thread are horrifying. People cheering the IRS and dunking on Ver are going to get it real hard in the gulags. There's nothing good about the news, and some people are only showing their true colors. The brain rot that is number go up maximalism. Well said, Joel. Binance founder Changpeng Zhao CZ sentenced to 4 months in prison. So he is going to be serving longer than what would have been the max. It looks like the maximum sentence could have been 18 months, but because of the scope, according to prosecutors, and ramifications of CZ's misconduct being massive, they suggested that his sentence should reflect the significant harm to U.S. national security caused by his criminal acts. So, I mean, it was bonkers, right? This guy allowed citizens from Iran, maybe even normal people from Iran, to transact over $1 million through his exchange because of not having strict controls, even though, again, we had very little guidance, especially these exchanges, right, on what to do and operate things around when Binance came out and started getting popular. Afterwards is really when we started getting more guidance and, I guess, over-regulation and enforcement. Regulation through enforcement, let's call it. So it's obviously not easy to scale things up and try to figure them out along the way. Unfortunately, he was not able to do that, and he is going to be spending 4 years in prison. 4 years in prison. Although 4 months in prison. I'm so sorry. Oh, well, yeah. I guess that's not too bad. I thought I had read 4 years. 4 months. That's not that bad. And it turns out that he's still got family relations, of course, in Binance. And he's going to be paying only a fee of $50 million, a pittance compared to the estimated $33 billion fortune he had made with Binance. So once he gets out of jail, or whatever, he's still going to have probably more money than when he went in there. So he's kind of like taking a little bit of a vacation right now, I guess you could say. He also had written an apology prior to this sentencing that happened on April 30th. He had spoken, he apologized for his poor decisions, accepted full responsibility for his actions, had no excuse for his failure to establish the necessary compliance controls at Binance. He said he wishes he could change that part of Binance's story under his direction. Binance has now implemented the most stringent anti-money laundering controls, sadly, of any U.S. exchange, of any non-U.S. exchange. Those controls have been in place since 2022. It's difficult to describe how quickly, he wrote, we grew and how chaotic it was to keep Binance afloat in those early years as we try to keep up with the unexpected, extreme exponential growth. In the end, we built a great product which has safeguarded all users and their funds at every turn. I apologize to everyone he let down, employees, a greater crypto community, family, friends, so on in the future. Oh, he talks about his past. He came from basically nothing. He grew up in an immigrant family with both parents earning close to minimum wage. I totally grew up similarly. I have worked every day since I was 14 years old, same, and keeping a simple lifestyle. I was able to pay my own way through college. I took no student loans. Damn, you worked hard. In college, I fell in love with tech, he said, and tried my hand at multiple failed startups before Binance. When those failed, I have always returned investor money and made everyone whole. I looked at myself and said, let me try again. I also don't like to leave issues unresolved. That is why I voluntarily surrendered and took responsibility in this case, because I want to resolve the issue before this court and try again. He talks about when he gets out, he's really passionate now about biotech. He'd like to help fund small research labs with the aim of curing diseases once and for all, as well as providing medical access to billions in the world using blockchain technologies. That seems like such like a 2017 quote though. And I'm not picking on him here, but does that not seem like an ICO promise? I'd like to help fund small research labs that are going to cure diseases, just all the diseases once for all, as well as provide medical access to billions in the world using blockchain. Yeah. Anyway, that must be a speaking point from 2017. He might have to update a little bit. But anyway, I think it's cool, though. He'd like to combat health issues when he's out, of course, fund those startups. A lot of time he had spent on education projects in Africa to improve living standards for the underprivileged youth in Southeast Asia, to university programs in Europe, and he intends to spend a significant portion of time and resources in such an area going forward. Anyway, he finished it by saying, words cannot explain how deeply I regret my choices that result in me being before the court. Rest assured that it will never happen again. Please accept my assurance that this will be my only encounter with the criminal justice system and that going forward, I will live my life in a manner that will make everyone proud. You know, in a way, him writing this makes me feel like a proud parent. Wow, I've raised a good kid. Yeah, he might have messed up through arbitrary regulations and laws, but he's a good kid at heart. Look at all this good he's done. And he apologized, right? When did we get any apology from Sam Bankman-Fried? I'm sorry. I just didn't see it. When he gets out, he wants to be president, I'm pretty sure. Although I think CZ would make quite the politician. But it's a humble apology, and I wonder how much of it really was taken into consideration before his sentencing. And surely there will be an appeal, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I guess it's not too bad. 4 months. CZ will be the wealthiest person ever to serve time in U.S. federal prison per business. So the wealthiest person to ever spend time in U.S. federal prison. Interesting, right? He, what does it say here? In a court filing before his sentencing hearing on Tuesday, they cited the flippant attitude on display and other remarks as one of the reasons they recommend the court give him 3 years in prison, longer than what guidelines prescribe, following his guilty plea to violate anti-money laundering laws in September. He has an estimated $43 billion personal fortune tied to Binance. Yeah, there it is. The new board of directors at Binance is dominated by his devoted friends and the mother of 3 of his children. So he has still quite a role and I guess some sort of direction, right? He's an advisor at the very least for Binance from jail. They can figure it out. But I think he did a pretty good job in growing that company. It's not easy, right? The amount of competition. Oh, stop trying to give me viruses. What is this? The block.co. So Consensus alleges that the SEC considered ETH to be a security over a year ago. So Consensus, major player when it comes to Ethereum and investing in some of the biggest products like MetaMask, the browser wallet, probably the most popular browser wallet ever to have existed. So Consensus, the funders of that, they actually accrued MetaMask. They didn't start it, but yeah, anyway, they still control it. They have sued the SEC since they found out that the SEC has decided that Ethereum is a security since about a year ago in early 2023. On March 28th, 2023 specifically, Gerber Gruwald, director of the Division of Enforcement of the SEC, approved the formal order of investigation in the matter of Ethereum 2.0, delegating the SEC staff broader authority to investigate and subpoena individuals and entities involved in the buying or selling of ETH. So these orders are asking for all sorts of information related to Ethereum. We're hearing that they had to file non-disclosure agreements in regards to this investigation in order to get updates on what's going on with the investigation. Consensus, Joe Lubin have received MetaMask over 4 different subpoenas during this period, and likely it's about. This started when Ethereum migrated to 2.0, which would move from proof of work, much like Bitcoin, validating using computing power, into instead a staking mechanism where you put up a stake of ETH at risk in order for a chance to validate the network. And if you cheat, you get slashed, you lose ETH. But if you do a good job, you have a chance of getting some of these rewards. Kind of similar, but better for the environment, you could say. Others would say that it's more of a centralizing force, since you have more and more who have money, staking more and more of that money and getting more of the block rewards and more over time. So something extremely controversial that I've covered over years, and I'm not going to get into right now, just to give you a brief overview if you're not very familiar. But back in the day, in 2018, there was the SEC's director of the Division of Corporation Finance, William Hinman, and I had covered this on the show back then. His speech had shed a little bit more light into what the SEC was thinking. He did believe that both Bitcoin and Ethereum were not securities. Recently, we're seeing more with Gary Gensler, the new head of the SEC, and his administration, more of a hostile view toward Ethereum specifically, and really other coins as well, which is an about face from Mr. Hinman's comments back in the day. Hinman refused to comment, of course, on recent developments, but this is interesting. It would, of course, make it perhaps more difficult for Ethereum to launch some sort of ETF. There are 8 ETFs right now that are up for decision from the SEC as to whether they are approved or not. And with Bitcoin launching its ETFs, it's been seen that it's very possible that Ethereum ETF could launch as well, since Bitcoin had Bitcoin futures that were trading on major exchanges before that ETF got launched. And you are also seeing similarly where there are Ethereum futures out there. Why did the SEC allow, or the CFTC, or the SEC not challenge the CFTC on this when they allowed for ETH futures trading to start? So where was the conversation about that? And Consensus said the act of staking when it comes to Ethereum 2.0 is really just posting a security bond so you can get paid to contribute labor and resources to help operate the Ethereum protocol. Now they're trying to turn that into some sort of investment contract. To me, it's clear that it's not the way that we have formalized securities to be in the past, but the SEC is trying to fit all cryptocurrencies into these really dated, generation old laws that exist. But this could prove an obstacle, let's say, for these ETFs to launch. And for example, the SEC has been having meetings with those they've subpoenaed and others, and some of the ETFs who are trying to get proposed. And the ETF folks who are trying to get an Ethereum ETF are showing up. There have been at least 4 different meetings with the SEC, where basically those who are trying to get these ETFs approved are the ones doing all the talking. It's one-sided, according to from what I'm reading here. The SEC stands there. They don't give any informations on investigations and possible approval. They're just trying to get as much information as they can, it seems, to come after Ethereum in some sort of way is what seems to be the picture at this time right now. So this is perhaps what's putting pressure on ETH, although it seems to be down less, like I mentioned, over the last 24 hours and the last 7 days than Bitcoin. So it's holding up well. But I think I would just like to get this over with. Just deny the damn thing. Stop with the suspensions. To me, that is all like more manipulation. If you're going to file enforcement, then just do it. It seems clear now after Consensus has sued the SEC due to them trying to classify ETH as a security that it seems the SEC has more malicious attempts here, because they say that they don't want to perhaps manipulate markets by giving this information, but it's already leaked out everywhere at this point. So, I mean, you're hearing about it here, probably not for the first time if you follow cryptocurrency. This has been something playing out over the last week and talked about quite a bit. But still, the price has treated it like nothing. It's just kind of following the overall market here. But it would be problematic if ETH was a security, and you would have to worry every time you send ETH that you're not following the law. If you're an exchange and you have it available for trading, and you have it available for trading, whether you're breaking the law and what kind of ramifications you would face. So this could grind to a halt a market cap of almost $400 billion, an asset that has a market capital of almost $400 billion, $362 billion at this time, almost $400 billion, huge. So we'll see what develops from that. That'll probably take some time to continue to play out, sadly. And still there are some who are saying that we could see an ETF for Ethereum as early as come probably December, and perhaps not sooner with some of these developments from the SEC. And of course, we're hearing all the political jargon. Like we didn't see these kinds of attacks when it was Biden who was in office. When it was Trump that was in office. But now that it's Biden, do we really want 4 more years of this kind of hostility to crypto? I don't know that it's definitely that cut and clean. I think both parties kind of agree in certain ways, especially some of the financial managing controls, right? The Treasury and the Fed, who really have a bigger say, BlackRock, who have a bigger say here. But I'm just sharing some of the conjecture that is circulating right now. But because it's going to be an election year, everything is turned political. So, right? Like this wouldn't have happened to Binance if Trump was in office, and so on. You know. Eminem has replaced the new face of Crypto.com. He's replacing Matt Damon. I didn't even know Matt Damon was the face of Crypto.com, but it goes to show how closely I follow them. But Eminem, who might attract a new kind of audience, a new kind of culture, someone who's been around for a while. And he did tweet about that with this ad here. You know what it's always been, Marshall Mathers. If you don't know his real name, that's Eminem's real name.
They ignored your potential, dissed your achievements.
Yeah, I probably can't play that, copyright reasons and so on. But yeah, you can check that out for yourself. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We'll continue here because we still have some more news to get to, and I don't want to hold you up as much as possible and waste your time. So BlackRock has no commercial relationship with Hadera. HBAR sinks 32%. Hadera, the producer of this token called HBAR, and their own hash graph blockchain that is unique in the way that it processes transactions. Let's just say, at least when it launched, there was a spokesperson or announcement of it had said that blockchain firms Arcax and Onera had tokenized BlackRock's ICS US Treasury Fund on the Hadera blockchain powered by the HBAR token. So the token rallied over 100% on Tuesday following this. However, BlackRock confirmed that it had no commercial relationship with Hadera. They said BlackRock has no commercial relationship with Hadera, nor has BlackRock selected Hadera to tokenize any BlackRock funds. So this was like basically two companies saying, "Oh, we have some shares of like BlackRock Treasury stuff. Let's tokenize it and then put it up." Right? It's not like the whole fund, a whole huge $22 billion money market fund. It's just some shares from it that they decided to tinker with, and they like had it's just kind of funny. Arcax CEO, so one of those two firms, the CEO Graham Rodford had clarified that BlackRock was aware that Arcax was tokenizing shares of the fund. With most of the investments we make, we want to tokenize them. We told them, BlackRock, that we were going to tokenize them. And then just out of the good relationship with them, we said, hey, we're putting out a press release. You guys happy to check it? So they checked it and gave their views on it. He explained. So I don't see what the views are that they said, but it's like showing up to a wedding and then you're kind of like alone there, like just eating hors d'oeuvres and so on, hanging out. And then you see like some cute person there and you stand next to them and like while next to them, you're like, hey, this is my partner. Yeah. This hot stuff right here. You're cool with it, right? You're cool with it. You're cool. Yeah. That's basically what happened. So no, there's no partnership between BlackRock and Hadera. And the token is still up since the initial 100% climb. So I don't know. Trader's going to trade. It looks like Square and Cash App are now being investigated. According to Ryan Sean Adams, he said they're being investigated for processing crypto transactions linked to sanctions countries and terrorist organizations. Aren't we linked to like terrorist organizations? Have there never been terrorists in America? I can hear people saying, oh, a company being investigated, they must have done something wrong. Where there's smoke, there's fire. No, update your priors. That's an old paradigm from a Department of Justice you could trust. We're in a different world. This Department of Justice has been politically co-opted to attack crypto in any way possible. Laws be damned, civil liberties be damned. Do you trust the Department of Justice after they charged and arrested wallet developers for unlicensed money transmission? Just last week, they laid out a case to make all non-custodial crypto software a money transmitter, such as MetaMask. It's clear a powerful faction of the U.S. political establishment has declared a war on crypto. And regulation by criminal enforcement is the new operating manual. We must fight back. So as the dollar dies and those in power who have been fed by the dollar through all this time see it wither, they see new competition on the horizon. A new monopoly board, let's call it, that they don't control. Since you guys are obviously playing Monopoly Go on your phones, I'll throw in a reference to that. And people decided to instead play on the Bitcoin money board and the Ethereum money board. And for playing on that board, you are breaking the rules. I mean, that's pretty much what it seems like. Sam Bankman-Fried has turned rat. Cooperates in lawsuit versus FTX celebrity backers. So in a nutshell, he's trying to come out against these different endorsers who had worked with FTX, different celebrities, and trying to help in the investigations against them, likely as a way to get more leniency with what's going on, maybe to help his appeal now that he has been sentenced to jail. That's probably the game here. But once a rat, I guess always a rat. And people ratted on him. He's ratting on others. The great circle continues. But it looks like he won't be able to actually help them very much unless he proves that when he communicated or FTX communicated with celebrities, those celebrities were very informed. This is risky stuff. This is risky cryptocurrency. Are you sure you want to get involved? But it's unlikely that such discussions took place. So I don't know how much credence he's going to and credibility his comments will be having here. Starting on April 30th, so yesterday, starting today, support for the Lightning Network via Lightspark, we had discussed this a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, will begin rolling out on Coinbase. Enjoy instant, low-cost BTC transfers. So, yeah, pretty cool seeing the Lightning Network on there. I talked about fees earlier and this new model after SegWit in 2017 that would basically be great solutions that would help Lightning Network operate better and more efficiently and be the route for more and more people to transfer Bitcoin and pay for coffee for lower fees, and that is now integrated into Coinbase. So let me know if you have checked it out for yourself. There has been, you guys love the degen stuff. I don't like to talk about the degenerate stuff too much. I did way too much of that in 2021, and it honestly was driving me crazy trying to figure out all these DeFi projects and staking and restaking. But one project that has been the center of attention on social media for cryptocurrency has been the Agent layer, the Agent token. And this is, in a nutshell, ETH that has been staked to get rewards on the Ethereum blockchain being used to secure other networks. Something that some have pointed out, is very risky, right? It's risky if this gets put up to secure networks that are straight scams or problematic. It could create contagion over to the Ethereum network as well. But people continue to use it, make some money doing it, doing what they can while they could, like many of these other degen projects. And oftentimes they did so because by interacting with these different protocols, you get a chance of getting an airdrop. So when these projects announce a token that's going to be there for governance or for whatever other reason, those users who had interacted with the protocol in the past are oftentimes given some sort of reward along to team members, along to, I don't know, Discord members, to developers, so on and so forth. And so we got the announcement for the agent token and the airdrop for that and what that's going to look like. And man, people do not like that. They're quite upset about it. But let's take a look at this. Basically, they're going to be giving out only 15% of the tokens of the total 1.167 billion agent tokens. Only 15%. The first season is only going to be 5% of those tokens, and those tokens will initially be non-transferable. You cannot move those tokens, essentially making the cash reward worthless. Especially if you're someone who likes to farm airdrops, you're trying to sell that usually as quickly as possible. You see that pump when it launches, you sell, you made your money. But if it's non-transferable and you see that the team, the developers, everybody else is getting suddenly 85% or whatever it is, maybe before you, then they're able to sell that and dump, and then you basically made nothing. So this is, of course, creating quite a stink right now. The disappointment with this, one of probably the most anticipated airdrop to come out recently, and it's really covered well here in this fun meme. So I'm gonna share this with you guys. Check it out. Sorry about that, guys. I just know it was gonna be a long video. We're probably already getting long into it right now. And I'm gonna have to start this over. I'm sorry about that. But I want to make sure you guys check it out. It's pretty comical and it's great all the way through. And unfortunately, if you're driving and you can't read it, check it out later. Come back to the video. I'm not gonna read it out loud because I think it would kind of ruin it. And plus, I don't know that I can speak over his voice, and his laughter is hilarious. But yeah, no, I'm checking out the chat. I'm sorry if I didn't. I'll try to pay more attention to the chat next time. And yeah, Raj, you moved to Spain. You're in Bangkok right now, but you moved to Spain, and now after what's happening with Veer, you're concerned because of you should have known from what happened to John McAfee in Spain. Damn, dude, yeah. They're not one of the better places. I mean, yeah, a lot of people did move to Spain, Portugal, places like that, but some places protect you more than others. At the end of the day, the U.S. government is the biggest gang in the world, though, son. They gonna find you, you know? That's a gang. So yeah, just to quickly remark on that, they geo-blocked it, whereby if you try to go claim, all of a sudden you can't. And that was not the case while people were able to stake some of these staked ETH onto the platform. And now they have locked ETH in there as well. And for what, right? Why take that risk? They were supposed to be rewarded for the risk, for helping for this protocol to grow. And now it's like such a slap in the face. And if you use a VPN, you can't even access the site. So like I said, it would be funny if people are trying to straight up take a flight somewhere else and try to access the site, even though you're not allowed to in your jurisdiction. It turns out the token's still non-transferable, bro.
Me mandó por la noche, había bajado el agua y por la mañana había subido. Cualquiera estaba donde la paellera, ¿sabes? A lo mejor está en el barco ese del petróleo.
En el Prestige.
En el Prestige ese. Y ya no trabajé más en la cocina. Ya aborrecí la cocina. Ay, ay, ay. No cobré nada, me dieron el dinero del bote.
¿Había mucho dinero en el bote?
Lo que me echaban y el dinero de lo que gané, me cobraron 20 paelleras a 500 calas, pues viste lo que me llevé yo para Sevilla. Ay, ya aborrecí la playa. Ay, hemos llorado los dos. Déjate de tú, no es para tanto, yo. A ti yo no quiero arroz, Jesús, yo no quiero arroz ni en China, vamos.
I don't think there's much more to say on that one. I'm sorry if you're having issues because of this airdrop and it didn't work out for you, but I inherently see these things as extremely risky, and if I'm going to be putting this out there for folks, I know I don't recommend it, but some folks do make moves based on what they hear on the show. If I had spoken about this before in some sort of way, you might have people going in there and risking funds, and I've seen it too many times in the past. And if I wouldn't put my money into and I didn't, then why would I recommend somebody else do it or cover it in much detail? I don't know. We'll finish with our quote of the day. Challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful, by Joshua J. Marine. So thank you guys so much. It's great to see some of you guys who've been around for a long time, as always. Thanks for showing up, Raj. Thanks, Jack Knife, for letting me know when I'm showing the wrong screen, still getting all these technical issues, but that was totally my bad. And I will continue to try to get the video good for you guys. I hope you all take care, and I'll catch you for the next update. Hopefully it's not as crammed with such, I guess, negative views, let's call it. Let's make it more fun for the next time, hopefully. Take care, guys. Peace.